All right, guys, if you've been around for any length of time, you know I love the Dune IP. Read the books multiple times, love the films, all the versions, love the Sci-Fi Channel version, and I love what Funcom has been building with Dune Awakening. I've been covering this game since it was first unveiled a couple of years ago. I'm really liking what I've seen so far, and they just put out a 26-minute gameplay presentation at Gamescom 2024. This is the first official gameplay of the beta that's been out. They haven't released anything up to this point. They did attach a early 2025 release date to this at Gamescom here. We're going to be doing a reaction video this morning to this gameplay footage, so hopefully you're strapped in and ready to go. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.
Hi everybody, and welcome
Daily streams
to this first glimpse
at 11
the
a.m.
gameplay
Central
of Dune Awakening. I'm really excited to welcome you into our world, but I want to point out a couple of things. First of
What's
all,
up, Joel?
this is a beta. It's beta footage, so you'll see bugs and you'll see things that need
Totally
polish
cool.
still.
Totally fine with
And
that.
secondly, our tutorialization is still a work in progress.
Also cool with that.
With
Good,
that said,
good to have the disclaimer out of the
let's
way
get into it.
for the doubters.
The start of the game, Dune Awakening, begins off-world on this large spaceship.
Show yourself, child.
It is here, in the presence of the Reverend Mother, the character creation begins.
Looking good.
Now the first thing you'll do is choose your preset avatar.
Okay.
Some of these are heavily inspired by the Denis Villeneuve movies. Once you've chosen a base visual look,
By the
you
way,
can then move
I
into
think
the
that's
depth
a
of
really
character
important
creation.
thing to distinguish here is that the visual style, a lot of it's influenced by the films, the most recent films, but they are obviously building their own thing here. The other thing I love about this game is that we're not dealing with book lore, so they're not really strictly adapting the novels. Instead, they've taken the idea of the fact that Paul had visions of multiple futures, and this is one of the potential futures that Paul saw in his visions, wherein different things have happened, and so the events on Arrakis have not transpired in the same way that they transpired in the books, which allows Funcom to play around in the Dune sandbox without actually needing to adapt the source material directly, which can lead to a lot of issues with people who are like, but they should have done this and they should have done that. They can get rid of completely all of that because it is lore appropriate for them to have multiple timelines and thus be able to create a game where it's in the Dune universe as one of the timelines that Paul saw, and that's lore appropriate. It fits the lore. I'm on board for it. It's really cool. Can't wait.
And make choices about how your character feels, both in terms of age, but also a plethora of physical attributes. Our goal in giving players access to a detailed character creator is to really allow them to create the avatar that lets them fulfill their fantasy of living out their dreams on Arrakis.
This is
There
all
are a
standard
multitude of hairstyles
character creation stuff we've seen in lots of different games. So this isn't groundbreaking stuff here, but it does look good. The character creator does
and
look good.
other things such as tattoos.
And
for
remember,
players
this
to
is
choose
only
from.
beta footage, so it's not had all the
You
polish
can even
yet.
choose different styles of lipstick and eyeshadow.
I like the music.
You can choose the muscle tone of your character, from height, arm thickness, leg thickness, neck length. And once you finish your character, you choose your name and enter the world.
Are we going to get the whole starting gameplay loop here? This sounds pretty cool so
and
far.
once you've customized the avatar that you want to play in the game,
Time to
Have
choose
they
your
told you
background.
well, then we
what
move
I
into the
am?
second phase of character creation.
Then I will sift your words for lies. Let's begin. Where were you born?
The second phase of character creation
A world of
is where
water.
you, as a person who may or may not know anything about Dune, get to make choices about who you were before the game.
Hang on,
you
I want to
wanna
go
play
back
in the
here real
game.
quick.
Have they told you?
Well, then
I
we
wanna
move
see
into
what
the
worlds they
second
showed.
phase of character creation.
Then I will sift your words for lies. Let's begin. Where were you?
Getty Prime, Chusuk, Caladan, Kaitan, or Ix.
Born
The second phase of character creation
a world of
is where
water.
you, as a person who may or may not know anything about Dune, get to make choices about who you were before the game
This
starts.
is more background
Where you
stuff, your
come
cast.
from, what caste you belong to in the Dune universe, and of course, perhaps most importantly, who your mentor was.
Who was your mentor?
Which this is
Your
your
mentor
class, sort
determines your starting set of skills when you enter the game.
Okay, so this is
You
a
must
lot
have
like,
been
if you've
very-
played most recently, I think the one that I've played that matches this is going to be Starfield, because at the beginning of the game you choose a background which has 3 different skills. You can earn those skills in game, but you get them at the start by choosing one of these various backgrounds. So it's the same thing here. You're choosing your starting skills, but then you can do more stuff
The
in
mind
game.
must be prepared, or the training does not take. The test is almost complete. Have you spoken truth? Come here. Kneel. Put your hand in the box.
I like the audio effects they've given when she uses the voice. Gom Jabbar, baby.
I hold at your neck the Gom Jabbar, the high-handed enemy. Don't pull away or you will die. Great plots are afoot in the Imperium, and the currents of intrigue run deeply. Arrakis is the key, and the Fremen are missing.
So in this
You
world, the
will
Fremen
go
are
to
missing.
Arrakis
Go to
as our
Arrakis.
agent, prisoner. You have one task. Find the Fremen.
Find the Fremen.
Wake the sleeper.
Wake the sleeper, baby.
You will know when it is done.
But we're not dealing with Paul Atreides in this one, which is awesome. Very happy. I love
we're
the
gonna jump
clip
ahead
we
a
saw
little bit in
yesterday.
the story here, skipping past several events just to sort of get into the early new player experience of the game.
Okay, so you're going to wake up.
And you'll see that the player, after various shenanigans, wakes up here
In a cave.
in a cave.
How did I know? Because you always start
And-
off in caves in games.
As we sort of look around the cave, we'll notice that it's
Are you in
filled
it?
with Fremen and
Corpses.
the remnants of, this ancient culture.
What happened to the Fremen here? Yeah.
So now as the player takes their first steps in the world, they're really here amongst the dead. And so the first question they should be asking is, what happened here?
This,
Who are these people?
yeah. Guys, this is the first
And,
gameplay
this is
footage
just a
that's
place
ever
where we
been
give players
released
a
of
little
this
bit
game.
of time to
Like,
adjust their settings,
apart from the little
get a
preview
feel for
snippet
the
trailers they've
movement
done,
keys.
this is cool.
and then move forward into the cave. And they'll stumble upon their
Looks-
first major interaction point,
It looks good.
which is the Frem Kit. The Frem Kit in our game serves as both a backpack for the player, of course, but also really a guide. The Fremen used to pack these with interesting objects that they could use to survive in the desert, and it's no different from the player. So here they begin their first crafting experience,
Sweet.
crafting a small scrap knife out of metal that was in the Frem Kit. These caves have been moisture sealed in order to preserve the moisture of those within the cave, and so the
Okay.
player, as they explore, will be able to use their scrap metal knife to pierce the seals and escape. So really this entire area, built using Unreal Engine 5, is just to sort of get the player and ease them into the path. A lot of survival games have very abrupt,
I see climbing.
very harsh beginnings, and we tried to, make the experience of joining Dune Awakening just a little easier, just give people a little bit of a feel for the world before we really toss them out into the harshness that is the desert of Arrakis. So here we've crafted a heal kit, and we're going to use that to heal our character. And once we're healed, you'll see that our stamina bar in the bottom left appears. And now that we have stamina, we can climb.
If you've played Conan Exiles, this is very familiar
The
territory.
climbing system in Dune Awakening is based in part on the one that we built for Conan Exiles. It's a free-form climbing system. It can be used to climb almost anywhere. And as you'll see later, the new technology available in Dune Awakening, such as suspensor belts, allows us to do even more interesting things with traversal.
God, this looks good, guys. For a beta, this looks impressive.
So once we've finished that first little section, we're jumping ahead, we're going straight into the harsh real world
Oh,
of
into the
Arrakis.
sun.
And here are your first steps on Arrakis. Your ornithopter has crashed, and you've got to escape from the crash site immediately.
Ah!
Because the sandworm
Sandworm!
always comes. And what you have to keep in mind is, these are the little ones. So these are the first sandworms you encounter in the game. There's bigger ones later on.
Okay.
The other thing that you have to pay attention to as a player is sunstroke.
Oh, I've never seen.
And
Hold up.
heat.
Did you see this?
So
There's
if
something I wanted to show really quick that we just saw on
from the crash.
screen. Watch this on screen. There's a vibration, so it's his footsteps.
So these are the first sandworms you
It's
encounter
right here in the
game.
middle of the screen. Look at
There's
this.
bigger ones later on.
There it is, right there. This is the sound he's making running across the sand. If you've never read Dune or watched the films, this is important because the sandworms can hear vibrations, and they will come. And they've told us that sandworms, you can't fight them. They will eat you. So you have to avoid them at all costs.
The other thing that you have to pay attention to as a
There's
player
a sunlight meter up
is
here.
sunstroke and heat. So if you see in the top middle of the UI here, we've got this sunstroke bar building up. The longer you stay in the sunlight, the more chance you have of getting into the sunstroke state. And of course, our player here, not the sharpest knife in the drawer, has decided to stay in the sun and try harvesting water from plants. So he has become sunstroked. Sunstroke gives you a debuff. It means that your water goes down much faster than it normally would. That means you'll need to drink more often. So stick to the shadows, avoid the sun. It will eventually wear off if you stay in shade long enough.
Okay.
So now that we've made our way out of the first part of the desert and we're heading deeper in, we're going to start to harvest in the game world. So harvesting in a lot of these survival games is quite similar. In this case, we're picking up items, but we're about to pull out what's known as the cut array. And what we do with the cut array is we analyze structures to find their weak points,
Oh.
and then we cut along those lines. What we do with the cut array is we analyze, but we're about to pull out what's known as the cut array. And what we do with the cut array is
So he scanned it, and this blue line showed up, and then he's going to move the tool along the blue line to harvest it.
we analyze structures to find their weak points, and then we cut along those lines to break open the structures and gain the resources inside. This is like mining. We apply it both to rocks, we apply it to metals in the game world. And at the start of the game as a player, you'll just be scrounging around, picking up, finding structural weak points in rocks that you can harvest, breaking them apart, and taking those pieces with you.
That's cool.
Now we've jumped
It's
ahead
a little
a
bit
little
of a mini game for
And
craft
we see
for
that the
harvesting.
player is starting to be affected by the spice in the air.
Visions,
And
baby.
this means that players need to get somewhere safe, in shelter.
I like the
Before the
visuals.
spice
This
overwhelms
reminds
them
me. Did you
and
guys
overwhelms
play?
their senses.
If you played, Owlcat Games did Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader, and when you got too far into when you were using your warp magic too much, you would start to see these visual anomalies and things as the warp, as the it's not the warp, it's the void. I forget the terminology because I'm not a Warhammer 40k deep nerd. I know some of it. I'm learning Warhammer 40k. I love it, what I've seen. It's the void stuff, the void touch, and you can open up the void. So this is him getting spice addiction, hallucinations from the spice. This is really cool.
And this is another large part of the game. We're not going to show too much of it today, but spice is a very important part. With the world broken apart by the War of Assassins, there are NPC
Okay.
bases scattered all over Arrakis. We're switching to a different character now, one who's slightly more advanced, and he's using his binoculars to mark an NPC outpost. We're going to mark that. That marker will then appear on our compass.
Ouch! Oh,
And you're
that's
able to
that's
approach
the
them in any way you like.
the-
In this
the
case,
belt.
our character uses a Shigawire claw combined with a suspensor belt to get up to high ground and approach the enemy base from above.
that's
Kind of
cool.
one of the interesting things about Dune Awakening is just how you can combine the different abilities. And this is how traversal really plays into the game. Like, you end up being able to attack these bases from any angle that you'd like. Now, our player is
I
going to
love the
craft
look of the
first
UI,
gun
the color
in the
scheme.
game,
I
known
really
as a Mauler pistol,
dig.
which translates to, the basic kind of weapon in the game. As you may know, in Dune, bullets are not the preferred type of ammunition. Instead, it's darts, which are fired at a slower rate in order to try and
Pierce the
attempt to pierce
shields.
shields. Now, this early in the game, enemies don't really have shields, so the player's going to sneak into the base from above.
So I gotta say something. This is gonna trigger a lot of video game nerds who don't know anything about the Dune world, because they're gonna come into this game expecting shields to do all of these things that they don't do in the Dune universe because of the way the physics work. So Lasers and shields? No, 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 no. That causes nuclear explosions. Like, no. The atomic explosions. Like, no. And so the shields are all about it's about speed and projectiles. That's why if you've seen the films as an example, but it's explained in the book, shown in the films by Denis, melee combat is a thing, and you have to learn how to time your attack so that you can slip in through the shield because it's projectile based. It's so cool. It's a really cool system, but it's going to trigger people who don't know anything about it.
In this case, dropping out a grenade, then sneaking around the corner, and beginning to get into NPCs head on. Now, troopers are the basic shock troops of the universe, and their ability trees reflect that. Grenades, Shigeru claws for moving around, and of course, they're able to take down people with headshots.
We've seen third.
You can see
that
how
looks really good.
Suspensor belts really allow you to change your approach to combat.
That looked good.
Dune Awakening is at heart a third-person shooter with melee
can you do first person?
and abilities. And it's the combination of melee, abilities, and range shooting that creates what we call combined arms in the game. Now we've taken a fair bit of damage in this battle, so we're going to stop for a second to heal ourselves up with a bandage. Bandages heal over time, so you can't just heal yourself to 100%. You have to actually get into safety, get behind cover before you start using them. Now we're going to quickly switch to a slightly different character.
This has been all mouse and keyboard
more
so
of the
far.
melee.
I would love to see. I know we saw controller in the
close,
gameplay snippet we saw the other day, which is only like 5 minutes long.
This character has.
This has all been mouse and keyboard
First of all,
so far.
The knee charge, which is about getting in close to do damage in combat, and then quickly setting up to a riposte, which allows you to parry and return massive amounts of damage to your enemy. Of course, later in the game, when enemies have shields, melee is a much more emphasized style of combat. And you see that when a player is not really equipped to handle ranged characters, they have to fall back on their abilities to get in close. Now,
this is group.
We've switched again. Now we're going to switch to a set of Mentat abilities. One of these abilities is known as Battlefield Calculation. Using Battlefield Calculation, the Mentat is able to calculate from anybody that they see what they're carrying and what they're wearing. I don't like the sound of that. Now we've dropped out our Hunter Seeker, and we're using our Hunter Seeker ability to take down enemies in the world really quickly.
Okay, that's interesting.
You hear that?
Now obviously when you're playing with a friend, you want to combine your abilities and work together. In this case, the Mentat's able to point out to their friend where people are in the world and how much ammo and stuff they have. And you'll see that when enemies go down sometimes, they go into a down but not out state. It's up to you whether you execute them or continue to fight.
Okay.
After a quick reload, it's back into the battle, with our friend coming from above and throwing out one more grenade.
It's looking good so far. Oh, we gotta get water somehow for our still suits.
And once you've defeated your enemies in battle, sometimes you just gotta take their blood.
Portable
in
container
order to
used
get
for carrying
water, the player's going to
There's a
have
blood
to
extractor.
craft themselves this blood sack and this blood extractor and use it to harvest blood from their fallen enemies.
This is straight from the books, guys. Straight from the books.
In our game, it's not always a good thing to just take blood from people. It's potentially bad and can only be used for certain things. Once you've extracted the blood, you can then of course drink it. As you'll see here, the player takes a big sip from their blood bag. But when they do that, it causes a debuff because the blood is not exactly pure, and drinking blood for water is not exactly a one-to-one scenario. So you'll see that our health bar got shorter while our water bar went up. And so being a blood drinker is not always looked upon in the right way.
Yeah, I was going to say. Player bases is a big part of like the end game.
Of course, once you've played the game for a little while, you'll start wanting to build your own base. And the first part of that is placing down what we call a sub-fief console. A sub-fief console allows you to claim a small part of Arrakis as your own, but it does in turn mean that you'll start to owe taxes to the Emperor. So here we are with our building system, and you can see that we have two types of building here. We have the holograms, which show in the beginning, I call them Solido projections internally. And we have the way that you fill in, which is by holding down the mouse button in this case. So,
and assuming you have the
cool thing about
resources,
this is
it
it
fills
allows
it
us
in.
to have this cooperative building system.
Cooperative building. Oh, so
you'll
kind of
see
like
that one
Grounded.
player places out
Grounded does
the
it this
Solido
way.
projections, and the other player fills them in with the materials.
Yeah,
in their
Grounded
inventory.
does it exactly
It's just a
this
way
way.
that lets people play together and build together in an interesting and exciting way. We've seen through our experience with Conan Exiles that some people just love to build in these games. So we've created a system called the Blueprint Building System that
Which is
allows
really
players
cool.
to save a copy of their base as one of these giant holographics. Then they can take them out into the world and place them out wherever they like, and then rebuild. And we have another system in the game which allows you to take these, big architectural designs of your buildings and sell them to other players on the exchange.
They've also
Once
talked
again,
about.
this is a way to quickly move your base around the world. If you've got a design you like, you don't have to, throw it out immediately.
They've also talked about how any structure you see in the game, you can make a blueprint of to then build on your own and modify however you want to. And they've also talked, and I'm assuming he's going to mention it here, but if he doesn't, I'll mention it here. How in the end game, the big thing is going to be, as an example, a guild building their permanent base with all of the refinement tools and substructures and everything else they need, and then taking that blueprint and deploying it in the Coriolis storms where the spice blows happen, which is a PvP environment. But that allows guilds to very quickly get all of their, they get a mobile base that they can set up to quickly start getting to the spice and everything else. But it is temporary because within a week or whatever the time limit is for the Coriolis storms, it will get wiped off the map and then you have to redo it again. But it's going to add that additional element of guilds setting up their structures that they can use as mobile bases that they will then use as blueprints.
And it allows you to create these interesting masterpieces. It also, as you can see here, allows you to, if you're not artistically minded and you don't like building big bases, you can buy them from other players.
Which is really cool.
Once you finish crafting a base, you want to fill it with all kinds of machines, fabricators, and refineries. And of course, harkening back to the blood extraction we just did, we've got the blood purifier. So what we want to do is take the blood from our blood sac and deposit it into the blood purifier, and over time it will refine into lovely fresh water, which can then extract into our litogens and carry with us out into the desert.
Very cool.
While there's many varieties of fabricators that you can use to craft things in the game, one of the most exciting things is crafting yourself a vehicle.
Oh yeah, and an
So
ornithopter.
we're opening the
I cannot
technology
wait.
menu, and from here we're able to purchase
Speeder
the
bike.
design for
Oh,
a
look at all of
sand
these.
A sandbike is one of the early vehicles available to players in the game, and you can kit it out with different types of modules, including an extra seat, which allows you to bring your friends.
Friends. Oh, that's so cool.
So in this menu, you can see we're fabricating ourselves a sandbike, and all the different parts of the sandbike have to be fabricated individually.
Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand.
So the player is going into the menu here, they're crafting different things which will make up their sandbike, and as you can see, it prints out in this kind of 3D printer type way where all the materials are turned into these particles which then come together to form the different pieces of the sandbike.
Very
and you can
groovy.
see it sort of all happening in the background here, and if we go out into the world view, you can actually see the pieces forming up.
It's like a 3D
inside the
printer, baby.
fabricator. So a base with lots of these fabricators going is actually pretty cool and pretty busy. Once we've done, we jump back in, we pull things out of the queue, chuck them into our inventory, and then we use the welding tool to place out vehicle pieces. Now again, this is a cooperative activity. We've thought about multiplayer, so any other player could be working with you to place modules and pieces of this bike.
Very cool, very
And
cool.
so we're going to assemble this bike, but of course when you work on larger vehicles and your friends are with you, you'll be able to work together to craft big things like transport ornithopters or sand
Oh,
crawlers.
hell yeah. Dude,
And so
I got to pause for a
we're going to
minute.
add the body to
All
this.
of this sounds like a super fun collaborative experience. I mean, we were already excited about coming in here and doing this with our gaming community in between the stuff we're doing with World of Warcraft. But hearing now that you're going to be able to collaboratively build vehicles and structures and everything else, I can definitely see an even bigger picture of what our guild is going to be doing in Dune Awakening when this happens. So, keep it in mind, everybody, because if you want to join our community, we'll be opening recruitment at some
And we're
point
going
as
to
we get
add
closer
an
to the
extra
launch
seat
date.
just in case we want to bring our friend with us out into the world. Once the bike's been assembled and fueled up, you jump on and you can head out to explore the greater areas of Arrakis. Heading out into the world to explore can be a dangerous experience. And as you explore
Got
the
a ship
universe, you'll
crashing.
find certain dynamic events will occur. In this case, the War of Assassins has claimed a new victim, a ship which falls from the sky, spilling its loot all over the sand. So we head out there
You
to see
better
what
hope
we
you're
can get
first.
to harvest and gather as much as we can. Of course, the problem is this is extremely visible to everybody in the nearby area. So people will be able to see this. And so in a PvP area, you might suddenly find yourself coming into competition with other players. In a PvE area, you might just find other people competing with you to get to the loot first.
Correct. So interesting, they do have PvE plus PvP areas, so you're going to get to choose how you decide to play.
And of course, at night time, there are different kinds of threats. Because while the heat of the day is dangerous, at night, the Sardaukar patrol this area of the desert with huge spotlights, searching for players. Now this player is over here, harvesting dew with a dew reaper, sucking the water off the surface of these plants. And they've been captured and seen by the Sardaukar. And
they're coming
the Sardaukar
down.
send down troops who come floating down out of the sky to attack and destroy the players.
Oh, that's cool. Very cool, guys. That looks awesome.
Now, of course, as mentioned, traveling on the surface at any time risks drawing a sandworm. But there are certain things which we've created to draw players out of their comfort zones. So in this case, there's a special type of sand here on the surface, known as flower sand. Flower sand, according to the books, is the softest kind of sand.
Yep.
And players can use it to refine it into a variety of different materials that they need for crafting. So you want to come out into the desert and you want to try and find flower sand. But you have to be wary and pay attention, because as you harvest, you risk drawing the attention of the sandworm.
I can't wait. What's this going to look like? You know it's coming. They're getting greedy. Oh, it's red. It's red.
We've awoken the beast. The sandworm is coming. We spent too much time out here, and it's coming to get us. Now you can see in the middle of the screen the indicator showing us
red.
that the sandworm is angry.
Yeah.
And it's coming after us.
It's a pissed
and
off
our only option
sandworm.
now is to get back to rocky ground, or the sandworm's going to take us. I don't know how those guys survived that.
No
but
doubt.
Somehow they managed to get
Oh,
to the
that's
safety
awesome.
of the rock island.
Very cool. Very cool. Player hubs. All right, sweet.
Once you've crafted your first ornithopter,
Oh, I can't
you'll
wait.
be able to take to the air, and your entire perspective of the world shifts. From here, it'll make traversing the world a lot safer because you can avoid the sandworms. It'll also help you to go out into the larger world of Arrakis. Here we are in the overland map, and we're going to make our way south until we find the place known as Harko Village. Harko Village is the current seat of the Harkonnen, after their city, Carthag, was destroyed in a nuclear explosion during the War of Assassins.
Okay.
There's more details like that in the lore of the game for players to discover and explore. So we're going to land at Harko, and we're going to explore the social space.
So this is a social hub.
Once you arrive in Harko Village, you'll be able to meet up with other players, interact with them, trade, and create guilds. The game has a variety of social interaction mechanics, from emotes to grouping to a chat. Throughout Harko Village, you'll also interact with story characters, follow the main story,
It's good to know there is a main story for people who
You'll
want
be
the
able to
story
meet
aspect of the
vendors
game.
who will sell you exotic items.
They let you live. That is interesting.
You'll be able to get a feel for how the factions are viewed in the world, and of course, you'll be able to swear allegiance to one of the major factions, the Harkonnen or the Atreides.
Very cool.
Swear your guild's allegiance and begin to take part in the politics of the Imperium.
Yeah, we'll be going with the Atreides for sure.
Once you've grouped up with friends, you should go out into the world and find desert Imperial testing stations. These are dungeon-like experiences,
Okay, guild.
which you and your
say,
friends
dungeons
can
with your
work
friends.
through together. So here we are landing our various ornithopters outside of one of the desert testing stations, and we're going to head in as a group. Now it's
Very
really
cool.
important to prepare different skills and abilities. These areas tend to be more of a challenge, and it's great to work together to complement each other.
Skill tree.
So this is the skill tree. Here you can equip different types of abilities and techniques. We have 3 slots for abilities and 3 slots for techniques. And there are multiple different trees depending on the type of trainers that you've interacted with in the world. So our character here is going to equip a series of abilities that complements the rest of their group.
We're going to go through this in greater
this case,
detail.
Swordmaster
I'll be
techniques.
recording this video, downloading
Alright,
it,
so
and
we're heading in.
analyzing it.
And of course you can
we'll have
use
another
dispenser
video up on that
belts to
system later because I need to know more.
As you'd expect. And we're going to explore this Imperial testing lab.
You've entered Desert Botanical Testing Station number 163. I'm Dr. Wen Olmeca, Senior Plant Geneticist here at the station.
Testing stations have storylines as
Perfect.
well as enemies to fight and loot to be found. So you really want to go in here and enjoy the experience. Playing through with friends, working together,
Flamethrower.
using different weapons and trying out different techniques.
Nice.
Now this player has placed out a portable cover. It's a different ability to what we've seen before. And you see that the enemies here have shields.
Yeah.
Using the flamethrower, it's easy to get through a shield because you can burn the air around them. And of course our characters are a little higher level than they were in the start of
I
the
think it said
video.
level 21
So
just
you're
then.
able to see that, yeah, we can take people down a little more easily. And of course, when you get to the end of these areas, you find these really cool loot chests. And in these loot chests, you find specialized components that are used for crafting exotic weapons. And
Awesome.
items. The end game of Dune Awakening
Yeah.
takes place in the deep desert.
Which is all PvP. Spice
Giant
blow!
spice blows will happen, drawing players from all around to try and harvest the spice as quickly as possible.
Oh, yeah.
You want to get there first, and you want to try and take as much spice as you can.
And this is all
before an enemy
PvP.
guild
This is
shows
where the
up
end
to
game
try and
takes
take it away
place.
from you. Now, of course, if you're clever and you start to lose the battle, you might place out a thumper, and that limits the time in which people are able to take spice, because then the big worm is going to show up.
Love the fact that they got this shot from the film as well.
I hope you've enjoyed this brief glimpse
Oh, yeah.
of the gameplay
Oh,
of
yeah.
Dune Awakening, and we're really excited to have you join us when the game releases.
I'm excited, guys. I'm going to be playing the hell out of this. It does say it's an early 2025. Let's
I
skip
hope you've
forward to this
enjoyed
really
this
quick,
brief glimpse
just
at
so we can get the
gameplay
screen
of
up.
Dune Awakening, and we're really excited.
Early 2025 on PC. You can wishlist it on Steam right now. It's also going to be coming to the PS5 and the Series X at a later point in time, but we don't know exactly what that timeline is going to look like. Once we have an actual release date, we'll know more, but we are definitely going to be playing this as a community. I'll be playing this game regardless, but may end up having a couple of different tunes. I don't know how I'll play it, but we're going to be doing this in between our World of Warcraft stuff as a guild when this happens. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, continue to follow along because I will be doing more coverage around this game as we get deeper and deeper into the year and into next year. I've been following it for a couple of years. Won't be stopping anytime soon. Daily streams at 11 a.m. Central here and on Twitch. I'll catch you in the next ones. Everybody stay safe. Happy gaming.